About a month ago, I talked about the situation surrounding Marvel's Spider-Man 2, the game for PS5, and actually soon PC, which we knew would happen, but since the Insomniac hack has pretty much been released on PC unofficially anyways, regardless, I talked about that game, and I talked about the situation around its DLC, around its honestly now confirmed non-existent DLC. I have a lot of opinions on this. Yes, I talked about this a month ago, but at the time it was speculation just based off of all of the proof and knowledge we had. Now it has been confirmed in a PlayStation blog as of yesterday. I just didn't really rush to talk about it because I kind of wanted to gather my thoughts. And in hindsight, this actually reminded me I forgot to ask you my question of the day for you, which is, what did you want out of this game for DLC? Like, did you want more costumes? Did you want story DLC? What did you want to see? I'm genuinely curious, or if you just didn't care. This game didn't land. You didn't need any DLC. It wouldn't have improved it for you. Let me know. This is something that's going to frustrate a lot of people. And, to some extent, rightfully so. There was never a promise of DLC, but with multiple leaks and, some of that coming from a hack, along with Insomniac kind of, honestly, it was a dumb move. Accidentally leaking their own debug menu, like when they patched the game, they made it so that you could easily access the debug menu and see content that looked like it was planned for this game. There have been a lot of pieces together that have made people really frustrated and made people feel like, hey, why did nothing ever come of this? So just point blank, this is not happening. There is no copium that I think people can huff based off this statement, which is, while we have no additional story content planned for Marvel's Spider-Man 2, we're delighted to bring all of your previously released post-launch content to the PC version, which there was not a lot of post-launch content, including New Game Plus, new suits and color variants, photo mode features, and more. Now, I think I've made it no surprise, even in my Let's Play where I played through this game, I played through it on my other channel, which the link will be in the description there. I made no real hesitation telling you that this game underwhelmed me. I don't hate this game. I know some of you do. Some of you hate this game. Some of you hate the story. To me, this story was a very underwhelming adaptation of the symbiote arc. I think that Kraven did not get enough time, especially with, the symbiote going up against it. I thought that there were too many arcs, too many characters. It reminds me a lot of The Amazing Spider-Man 2, a movie that, just like this game, I enjoy, but whenever I experience it, feel like, wow, this could be a lot better. Now, that said, I do want to say that I have also made it very clear that my stance on this situation is that it sucks. It's also a situation that sucked for the studio as well, which you have to remember is under Sony. And I've said in the past that I do think that some of their plans changed. I do truly believe that after a cybersecurity issue, which was a genuine crime that probably ruined a lot of people's lives for a long time because it was actual employee personal information, like, social security numbers, IDs, all of these things, right? Credit cards, all these things being leaked and being on the internet, I'm sure that caused a lot of hell for a lot of people. That said, there has been this very dumb take in a portion of the people who have watched my videos on that people think that I'm excusing it, that I'm saying like, oh, well, Insomniac, they did the best they could. It's a perfectly handled situation. There's nothing more they could have done. Well, what the heck? Let bygones be bygones. Look, I get we're not entitled to DLC, and I also understand that we are not entitled to more content for anything. I'm actually from a time where, believe it or not, games came out finished. There was no DLC. It was just that game on the disc. That's what you got. It was either good or it was bad, and there you go. We move on. Now, since then, obviously, things have changed a lot. And I do think that some of the strengths of Spider-Man 1 actually did come in the ability to drop additional suits, to fix things, to update things, to actually add additional content. I really like The City That Never Sleeps. I didn't know this. I guess a lot of people bitched about it. I thought it was pretty good. I didn't really have a big problem with it. For the first Spider-Man game, I really like Miles Morales. Not the best villain in the world, but I like that game a lot too. And so looking at this, I'm kind of feeling like it doesn't matter to me that there's not DLC that much. My wife Jill was like, man, this is really disappointing. I feel like there could have been a lot more. I feel like they could have expanded Carnage. I feel like they could have done this and that. And I agree. However, with how underwhelming this game was for me, where the biggest thing I like is the cinematography of the game, cutscenes, and the combat and swinging, not the story, the things that I did not like about this game or that completely underwhelmed me could not have been fixed at all by DLC. You know, you weren't going to go in and you weren't going to patch the story. You weren't going to fix what I think was a poor way to tell the symbiote arc, for the most part. You weren't going to flesh out what I think was a pretty two-dimensional Venom. You know, those things that frustrated me, some of my favorite elements from the Spider-Man character that I feel like were told in a way where the story could have been written in 2005 for a movie tie-in, those things were not going to be fixed. Now look, if you love this game, that's great. I'm not here to tell you why you should hate it. I'm just telling you that for me, I think there's this weird idea in like a very small portion of the audience that watches these videos that they think, well, Jay, you know, is just defending this game. He loves this game. Insomniac is king to him. He thinks they can't do anything wrong. No, I was pretty disappointed by Spider-Man 2, actually. And so I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, well, the chameleon could have been cool. You know, you could have done more with that. You could have done more with Carnage. You could also in a third Spider-Man. But the things that bummed me out, they were not going to change at all. And so I had already moved on. You know, this was something that for me, while I will talk about it because I love the Spider-Man character, while I will talk about it because I know a lot of you in the audience love the Spider-Man character, and hey, you know what? Whether you agree with me or not, we're all Spider-Man fans, right? And I think that's the important thing. While we all feel that way, I think there was a lot of people that were holding on to hope. And that's fine. You can absolutely hold on to hope, and God of War Ragnarok took forever to release, essentially an expansion, it was pretty hefty, that added on to the end of its game and added additional features and stuff as well. So I understand that when it comes to Sony, it's not that there can never be a late DLC. It's not that there can never be a late update. But looking at this in hindsight, it's not that I'm disappointed that we won't get story DLC per se, as much as I am just kind of like disappointed at the lack of support for this game after it came out compared to the first one. You know, like I said, when I was a kid, games just came out and they were done, right? But to me, this game didn't really feel fully done. It felt like a lot of money was spent on it. It felt like a lot of people poured a lot of heart into it, for sure. But it felt to me like a lot of character threads were not wrapped up. It felt to me like a lot of portions of the story were already rushed inside of the main story. And so I don't know if tacking DLC onto that would help. I don't think it would. But I do think that some of the things that could have made this game feel a little more special were those things like more suits. They didn't really add very many suits to this game post-launch, especially compared to the first game. It just felt like there wasn't really much of anything. You know, things like even more challenges. They didn't really add much of anything like that. It just kind of feels like this game now that this stuff is out, like New Game Plus, which I can't believe again didn't launch with the game, the new suits, which there weren't many, color variants, which were actually cool, photo mode features, things like that. It felt to me like the game right now, as it is right now, if you have all of those updates installed, is what I would have expected the game to launch with, plus I would have expected a more complete, fleshed out, three-dimensional story. That's just me. You know, and again, I grew up playing the old Spider-Man games, like the more cartoony ones, the Raimi movie tie-ins. It's not that I'm not used to a story that's a little bit thrown together. That absolutely used to be the standard for Spider-Man games. They weren't perfect stories. You know, they weren't classic Final Fantasy. It wasn't like people would go on and write a video essay on, you know, literature type piece about how good the Spider-Man story was for a lot of the old games. Not all, but a lot of them. People wouldn't do that. But when Insomniac kind of took the reins of this and you had the Ratchet and Clank developers, you know, I was thinking, well, maybe this is something that can improve. And I really thought it did with the first game. And I thought a lot of elements were handled very, very well with Miles as well. It's just that it felt like a lot of things fell apart with this game that really bummed me out. At the end of the day, what do I think could have been done better? Communication. This is something I've said 100 times. And the word entitlement always comes up, and it's a word I bring up because I hear it a lot. Yes, we're not entitled to more content. You can absolutely say that. But people did spend a lot of money on this game, and I feel like at the very least they're entitled to be kept in the loop. And you might say, well, no, hold on, you don't work at Insomniac, you don't work at Sony. Who are you to ask that company to communicate with you? Well, then why do we have community, directors, community leads? Why do we have that kind of position? Why do we have these statements on the PlayStation blog? Why do we have Twitter and all these places where all these companies are always talking about stuff and patting themselves on the back? The whole point is supposed to be, hey, we can have a little bit of transparency here. Not a ton, but a little bit, enough to say, hey, by the way, you've been waiting a year. Maybe we shouldn't have let you wait that long expecting something. Like maybe we could have gotten an announcement 4 months ago that they weren't going to add to the game. 5 months ago, that there wasn't going to be additional story content, but maybe they'd do some suits. Anything like that. I think it's kind of unacceptable to let the people who passionately were hanging on to this, who are not me, by the way. I'm playing Silent Hill 2 right now. I'm playing Dragon Ball Sparking. I'm watching anime. I'm doing work, in this job and another one. Like, I'm not clinging on to this game needing more DLC, okay? But the people who passionately were, like, white-knuckling it here in the fandom, really wanting this game to improve, or the people who are loving this game, who don't have the problems I have, and I respect their opinion too, who adored this game, and they just wanted even more because it was so cool to them. I'm not making fun of it. That is a very valid position. I've been there before with a lot of different things that other people didn't care about. I know what that feels like. So, if you're thinking, oh, well, Jay's sitting here, he's just monologuing and he's making fun of me because I like this game and I didn't feel the same way he did and he's credentialism whatevering me. No, you're absolutely 100% valid if you love this game. I truly believe that. Just because I had problems with it doesn't mean you have to. But I do think that those people especially deserve better. Those people who didn't have the problems that I had. Those people who were sitting here like excited, for a year, like waiting to see more because there was that precedent, of the first game of getting more, of getting that communication. And it feels to me like Insomniac, it's not an excuse. And when I say it, people think it is. I feel like Insomniac has just shut down and withdrawn from the public when it comes to any kind of communication. Like even other content creators I know who have a better relationship with Insomniac, I don't really feel like they hear from them from everything I see. Especially nobodies like me don't. But then you get down the chain to just like the average gamer, they're not going to hear anything. Like they're not going to get a promo piece. They're not going to get an email. They're not going to get anything. They're just expected to sit waiting for a year and then find out from some blog post. Like, hey, you were excited, but nothing's going to happen. I personally feel like that's kind of unacceptable. I don't think it's unacceptable to not make DLC. That to me is where the line is. And I've said this 100 times too. Contacting Insomniac about this, like harassing them, contacting voice actors, contacting individual game developers, things like that. One is just the dumbest, most brain dead thing you can do because it makes us all look psycho. And it is a weird psycho thing to do, like actually harassing people. So please don't do that. But I also feel like it's one of the reasons we're in this position. Now, this is not a good way to handle things, but I feel like the hack, people having their personal identities pretty much ruined for quite a while on the internet, people having their, credit cards and all these things leaked, disenfranchisement of those employees, I don't know if I said that word right, but like getting disenfranchised, getting frustrated, the weird threats and contacting of like certain voice actors, even the whole thing around the web suit, the Raimi suit, which is one of my favorite suits, especially in the first game. And people like threatening Insomniac employees over that. Okay, well, yeah, that's one reason why we're probably in the position we're in, where Insomniac has withdrawn from the public. And I think I said that before in my previous video, and some people said, oh, that's just an excuse, or, oh, well, they shouldn't do that. You're right. I truly think they shouldn't do that. Like, you shouldn't let a few psychopaths make it so that you can't have fun, can't make a cool thing, can't communicate with people. But unfortunately, if you get kind of kicked in the teeth over and over and over again, figuratively, you're not going to at some point get back up. You're going to just like withdraw. You're going to kind of retreat and just not bother. Because even if it's just a few people doing it out of the crowd, you're going to say this crowd is not worth dealing with. And I think unfortunately that's the position we're in with Insomniac, is it genuinely seems to me like outside of the occasional vague statement, we don't get any communication from this, I don't know, development studio anymore. And I'm not sure if it's just Sony, and like maybe the hack and all these things had nothing to do with it. But it truly seems to me like as things have piled up, the communication just died. And it even died on like a promotional level. Like I don't see people promoting these games. I don't see like people talking to developers. I don't really see, like people getting interviews. I don't really see any of that, right? Not stuff I expect to get. Like I'm not even trying to get that with them. But I'm saying, like, I don't see anybody really getting that. Like, I don't see them going out and talking to people. I don't see them going out and getting in front of a rumor, denying it before it happens, before it catches wind. I didn't see them ever really denying, when people were getting their hopes up for more content, except for giving vague, well, we don't have anything to announce at this times. The least that I truly believe they could have done is just said, we're not making anything else. And that's it. And that would have been good enough for me. That to me is where this kind of has become unacceptable. In a very personal, down-to-earth like type of weird analogy, if I told you guys like, hey, here's a big video, can't wait to share more stuff with you in the future, and then I just disappeared, unless I'm dead, that's kind of douchey. Like unless something serious happened. I feel like I at least have an obligation to say like, hey guys, I'm alive, I'm at a different place in my life. I can't really be doing this right now or something, like to at least clear the air. And that's just like on an individual personal basis, just as someone who creates YouTube videos. I feel like Insomniac has much more of a responsibility than that to the character and to the fans to just say, hey, stop getting your hopes up so high. That wasn't a precedent we set with the first game. It was just for the first game. This is the game you're getting. This is the game. Have fun. That's all I wanted, was just be clear on it. I think that's all a lot of people wanted, was just be clear on it. And it feels like we couldn't even get that clarity or that transparency. And that, I think, is just kind of sad. Like, I feel like that's unprofessional. That's just me. So if you enjoyed this video, you want to leave a like, subscribe, let me know what you think in the comments down below. I do appreciate you very much. Interested to hear what you have to say about all of this. And also, we do have a lot of ways to support this channel, but we have another channel, which is actually JayRPG, where I've been covering role-playing games, stuff like that. So if you want to check that out, I appreciate that. That channel's very slow growing, so always love seeing you over there. We also have Degenerate Plays, where we played through a lot of games together, podcast style, hanging out. Another slow growing channel, so love to see you there. And then we do have a Fortnite code, DJAY123, and that same code can be used on our store, cosmobunny.shop, for 10% off your first purchase of our transformative coasters, keychains, trays, and more. We take recycled, repurposed comic book, manga, and magazine paper from comics, manga, and magazines that were destroyed. A lot of times they're sitting in storage or they're on their way to be dumped in a landfill. We take these from local businesses, dirt cheap or sometimes for free, and we turn them into something new. We preserve a little bit of that paper, transform that art into something new, recycle the rest, and make something new out of it. So we hope you enjoy that. We hope you check that out. And sometimes we even do, comic shows and stuff like that with it. So, love hearing from you. Have a fantastic day. And as always, everyone, stay shway.